And now, coverage you can count on. This is WSAV News 3 tonight.
Manhattan's famous skyline is forever changed. In the streets of New York City tonight lies the rubble of three buildings that entombed thousands of people, lives snuffed out in hatred and an attack President Bush vows won't go unpunished.
Good evening. I'm Jim Carswell.
And I'm Tina Tyus-Shaw. Thanks for joining News 3's local coverage of the attack on America.
How many times have you seen the images today of a plane crashing into a skyscraper, 100-story buildings falling into themselves? Chaos that looks like old video from World War II.
14 hours later, it's still hard to believe what we've been seeing all day. Tonight, President Bush spoke to the nation, assuring us the attackers will pay.
These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed. Our country is strong. A great people has been moved to defend a great nation. Terrorist attacks can shake the foundations of our biggest buildings, but they cannot touch the foundation of America. These acts shatter steel, but they cannot dent the steel of American resolve.
The CIA is focused on one suspect tonight, fugitive terrorist Osama bin Laden. Republican Senator Orrin Hatch says U.S. intelligence intercepted communications between bin Laden's supporters discussing attacks in New York and Washington. The president said tonight the United States does not distinguish between a terrorist and the people hiding that terrorist.
With a 1-2 punch, terrorists struck a blow against America, hitting the strongest nation in the world and the symbols of its financial and military strength, the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Hijacked airliners were the weapons of choice. Shortly before 9 o'clock this morning, with 81 terrified people still on board the first plane, American Airlines Flight 11 slammed into one of the World Trade Center towers. At first, it was thought to be an accident, a malfunctioning airline out of control that happened to crash into the skyscraper in lower Manhattan. Smoke billowed into the air as fire spread through the building.
To the window, and I look out and I see smoke. The next thing I saw, I mean, you gotta look at it, the bottom elevator, the glass, just flames exploded out the front of the World Trade Center. Glass flew everywhere.
And then it became vividly clear that this was no accident. Just minutes after the first collision, and as thousands of workers inside came to terms with what happened in the building next door, a second hijacked airliner, United Airlines Flight 175, smashed into the second World Trade Center tower with 65 people aboard. A huge fireball engulfed the building, matching the inferno of its twin just yards away.
But the day of terror wasn't exclusive to New York. Those responsible were determined to take on the U.S. At 9:43, American Airlines Flight 77, en route from Dulles to Los Angeles, plowed into the Pentagon, the nerve center of the world's most powerful military force. A portion of one side of the five-sided structure collapsed. There were 64 people aboard the plane.
With the world's attention now fixed on the drama unfolding in New York and Washington, D.C., it quickly became clear that perhaps the worst had yet to come. With the morning sun shining down on the twin World Trade Center towers, thick smoke rose into the sky, billowing from gaping holes left by the airliners turned into deadly missiles. Then, at 10:05. Within seconds, the South Tower of the World Trade Center was no more, a pile of rubble, sending dust and debris high in the air, likely killing everyone inside.
The destruction stretched farther as fear filled the sky over Pennsylvania. Then, at 10:10 this morning, officials at Somerset County Airport say a large plane thought to be targeting the presidential retreat at Camp David, Maryland, crashed into western Pennsylvania. That's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. United Airlines later confirmed the plane was Flight 93 from Newark, New Jersey to San Francisco. 45 people were on the plane.
Just before 10:30 and more than an hour after it was struck by the hijacked jetliner, the remaining tower of the World Trade Center stood over the rubble of its sister building that once stood nearby, but not for long.
I don't know.
The towering structure collapsed, adding to the chaos and confusion already gripping lower Manhattan. They survived powerful hurricane gusts and even a bomb blast in 1993, but this time, 2 intentional plane crashes reduced the twin towers of the World Trade Center to rubble. The 110-story towers were the tallest in New York City and the 5th and 6th tallest buildings in the world. Architectural experts say the structural damage was caused mostly by the resulting fire inside the buildings. The incredibly hot fires fed by the aircraft's fuel tanks likely caused the steel beams to melt, lose their stiffness, eventually causing both towers to collapse. The World Trade Center housed about 50,000 workers and it received almost 2 million visitors every year. A third building at the World Trade Center collapsed about 8 hours after the initial attack. Building number 7 was located across the street from the Twin Towers. The 47-story office building was one of 2 left burning after the terrorist attacks. It collapsed just before 5:30 this evening.
Rescuers will work through the night to search for survivors in New York and Washington, D.C. The financial district of Manhattan looks more like a war zone than anything else tonight. All around, windows of nearby buildings were blown out, metal melted. The dust clears to reveal ambulances lined up for rescue operations, but left useless after the skyscraper came down in clouds of concrete, dust, and ash. Cars are flipped upside down as if a bomb blast tossed them in the air. 30 minutes ago, New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani said that there are some people who are alive in the rubble of the Trade Center. Their conditions are not known right now. However, it's not known exactly how many people died in this terrorist attack. At the World Trade Center, thousands may have died from the attack. At least 50,000 people worked in the World Trade Center alone. Also, officials say nearly 200 firefighters who were on the scene at the Trade Center may be dead. At least 800 people are dead in the attack at the Pentagon. A total of 266 people were killed from all 4 crashes today.
The attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon was a shock for Americans everywhere, including here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. But today's horror is much too close to home for one new Savannah resident. Phyllis Ann Kessler recently moved to the area from New York City and spent the day in disbelief, watching television coverage showing the destruction of neighborhoods she knows well. Phyllis has family members in New York she can't reach and several friends who work in the Trade Center towers. Now Phyllis says it's frustrating to watch and wonder what's happening back at home.
I wish I was in New York, yeah. I'd much rather be there. I feel helpless here. I'd rather go there and do something. If I don't know what I could do, I'd probably just get hurt, but at least I can say I was there rather than sitting here watching it on TV.
Phyllis says she'll probably rent a car and drive home to be with her family as soon as it's possible to get into New York. If you have family members or friends that you would like to check on, we have some important telephone numbers for you. Relatives of American Airlines passengers can call 1-800-245-0999. United Airlines has also provided a phone number. Call 1-800-932-8555, or you can log on to united.com or go to WSAV.com and click on National Contacts to reach any of the websites we're mentioning here tonight. Morgan Stanley, the largest tenant in the World Trade Center, has established an emergency contact number for employees and their families. That number is 1-888-883-4391.
Around the country, gas prices are going crazy. For instance, in Kansas, it's up to $5 per gallon. In light of these reports of price gouging, Georgia Governor Roy Barnes is urging businesses not to inflate prices. We've noticed little change around here so far, but many people aren't taking any chances.
Got all my trucks coming up here now, and I've got my wife and daughter and her boyfriend's here filling up, and, you know, trying to get it while you can. They're going to run out of gas tonight.
News 3's Kristen Thorne has been out all night talking to people. Kristen, what's happening here?
Well, Tina, gas station owners and attendants that I talk to say that just because this is happening right now, they're not going to jack up the prices just for the sake of making money. As long as they don't get charged more, they're not going to charge us anymore. But some people around here are not waiting to find out.
7-cent Golden Tuesday at this end mark is attracting a lot of customers, but most of them, like Alan Brooks, are getting as much as they can now because analysts say prices may be going up.
The prices of gas is already high enough, and I figured I'd take a shot at filling everything up one last time before these prices gone skyrocket.
Brooks owns a lawn care service, so for him, gas is a daily necessity.
Well, just listening to the television there a while ago, they're looking $3 to $5 a gallon.
How is that going to affect your business?
It probably could. It's going to put a lot of folks out of business. Some folks are not going to be able to stand it.
How about you?
Well, I think I'm going to be fortunate enough to be able to hang in there, but it's not going to be comfortable.
But that uncomfortable feeling is setting in early for many local motorists. Clerks say they're seeing about 3 times as many customers as a result of the price increase.
We have friends in Indiana, and they called us up, told us they're paying $5 a gallon for gas. So we're just playing it safe.
And we told the whole family to come out here and get some gas, and I guess we get some extra gas, so just in case it does go up.
After Brooks finished filling up his tanks, he paid about $100.
I got a good deal, didn't I? I'll be back in about a week and have to pay a whole lot more than that.
The Georgia Emergency Director says for us that there is not a shortage of fuel here in Georgia. There is no reason to panic.
We'll be back out again checking tomorrow. News 3's Kristen Thorne reporting.
Many people across the coastal empire and low country are turning to churches as a source of comfort and a way to deal with today's tragedy. Places of worship open their doors, offering special prayer services. News 3's McCall Perry joins us. Now, McCall, you were out and about to a number of services tonight across the area.
Jim, it's amazing how people will turn to their faith in the happiest times of their lives and now today the saddest times in their lives. We have a couple of things in common in times like these. We wait for answers no matter how terrible they may be. We seek support sometimes within our spiritual family. That's what happened all over the area tonight. And regardless of denomination, the prayers were very similar. They're prayers for peace.
God bless America.
Two common threads held all prayer services together: faith in God and love of country. Man, woman, child, all joining hands and looking for hope.
Through the night with a light from above.
At Calvary Baptist Church, Pastor Mark Hearn spoke of perseverance.
Though they may harm us physically, they can never take away our faith. They can never take away our hope.
Mayor Floyd Adams joined in prayer with a younger member. There were many among the crowd offering their own prayers for the victims.
There may be someone whom right now is laying underneath rubble and seems to be so alone. Father, I pray by supernatural power you'd let them know that they're not alone.
At St. James Catholic Church, the priest asked the congregation to turn to God for help.
We pray. We gather together to be sustained by each other. We pray that God will protect and bless this our nation.
Members of the Epworth United Methodist Church recited psalms.
The Lord is my shepherd.
Many of them remember another attack on our country.
I was 12 years old when Pearl Harbor happened. And I never thought 60 years later I would see this, and sitting in my own living room, and I was horrified.
God bless America, my home, sweet home.
In many of these churches, prayers are often made for other countries in turmoil. But tonight, the prayers were for peace in our own country. Church services continue tomorrow. The Messiah Lutheran Church opens their doors all day. St. Peter's Episcopal Church will hold service at 10 a.m. The Independent Presbyterian Church will have a service at 11:30 tomorrow morning. The First Congregational Church and the Providence Presbyterian Church will both have services at 7 p.m. and prayer service at Guyton United Methodist Church is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Jim, another prayer meeting came into us late tonight. St. Gregory the Great Catholic Church in Bluffton tomorrow night will meet at 7 p.m. One more thing I wanted to say, I went to several churches tonight, some with older members who had seen some similar tragedies to these, and some with younger members who this is their first time ever realizing something like this could happen. And either way, both sides said they just can't believe the severity of this one.
It's touching every one of us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, McCall.
Savannah police are keeping a close eye on area mosques and synagogues to prevent personal attacks. Police say right now they realize emotions are running high, but they ask everyone to show restraint. They say any type of violence against a group or culture will not be tolerated and offenders will be prosecuted. Awareness has to be heightened in the face of video like this. Palestinians in Israel celebrating in the streets after today's attacks. Palestinian Liberation Organization leader Yasser Arafat says he deplores the bombings and will call President Bush to express his condolences. Muslims in the United States are also condemning today's attack. One local leader fears they could become targets of retaliations.
I'm very much concerned right now, not just for myself, but I'm concerned about Muslims all throughout the United States of America and the possible Islamic or Muslim backlash and Muslim bashing that we could very well ourselves be the victims of when it has not been proven that Muslims are behind this. Islam does not tolerate this type of behavior. If Muslims are guilty of this, then they are not living the excellence of our religion.
Ali is the imam of the local Savannah Mosque.
Downtown Savannah is relatively quiet tonight, but you could find crowds at the hotels. Stranded travelers congregated in lobbies and around televisions getting the very latest on the event that's kept them here. News 3's Dave Cartoonan was at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Savannah tonight. He talked with a worried group watching the president's speech.
The MO Bar at the Hyatt downtown had a different modus operandi for guests this evening, a place to unwind as usual, but also a place to hear the president address the nation.
I enjoyed it because I really want them to go and get to the bottom of this.
I think he's in a little bit of shock like everybody else.
It was very important. We were waiting for him all day. I think a lot of people, including myself, were very unsure about what was going on.
And for LaRue and Sims, it was a place to take the edge off after a grueling day trying to reach personal connections in New York. LaRue is a stockbroker. He worked at the World Trade Center often.
I was there about 3 weeks ago, and it's a 110-story building, and there's thousands and thousands of people that are there, and it's just inconceivable that that could ever happen.
Sims's son interns for Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
And all I could hear behind him was like fire trucks and ambulances. It was just a lot of noise. He said it was a lot of chaos. And like I said, there was trembling in his voice. I know he was afraid, which put us in a panic.
There was fear for her son, but relief he was safe, passing along the news to them before they had even heard of today's horror. LaRue's coping wasn't as easy, as he thought of colleagues and acquaintances.
Many people that I work with and talk to on a regular basis, and you know, I'm quite sure that there's some people that are gone.
Another worry for these travelers getting home, but that's a far smaller detail than it would be on any other travel day. Dave Cartoonan, WSAV News 3, Savannah.
LaRue, who lives in Albany and trades in New York, got one bit of good news this afternoon. He said he spoke with an associate who worked on the 61st floor of the first tower to be attacked. That person made it out of the building safely.
As momentous as today's events are, each person, each neighborhood can make a difference. That's certainly the feeling in one Savannah neighborhood. News 3's Ginger Wilder went to the East Side Neighborhood Association tonight. She found a group of people determined to rise above the tragedy that is weighing down the nation.
And we are sort of meeting today sort of symbolic of the fact that we are not going to stop and we are not going to let them make us afraid to be out and do the things that we normally do. Times of disaster.
More than 40 neighbors crowded into this meeting room in the East Side Concerned Citizens Building on Park Avenue. They began the meeting with a solemn speech from their leader, Freddie Patrick, asking the neighbors to pray. Patrick says several members thought the meeting might be canceled, but he wanted to send a different message. But some people were afraid. One member says she got calls from several women who were scared, and she went to their homes to comfort them.
I think when things happen like that, you need that moral support, you know, to know that somebody else is concerned and somebody else cares.
These neighbors not only want to reach out to one another, they want to reach out to the rest of the world, too.
We're going to form a committee.
The committee will coordinate donations of everything from blood to clothing to whatever the need may be.
We're going to try to pull together and see if we can do everything and anything that we can do to help support our fellow Americans who are facing this tragedy at the moment.
Because Patrick feels it will take love and support from all over the country to help the nation heal. Ginger Wilder, WSAV News 3, Savannah.
And by the way, you don't have to be part of that group to help. If you want to get involved with their donation efforts, contact them at 236-8201.
Now let's talk for a moment about tomorrow. If you have airline tickets for tomorrow morning, you need to know all flights are grounded until further notice. In fact, all flights in the air this morning were ordered to land. One of them, on its way to Orlando, landed at Savannah International Airport. News 3's Tim McGinnis spent the day at Savannah Airport today. And Tim, something happened today that's never happened before. All flights were grounded.
That's right, Jim, and the Savannah Airport is on the highest security alert possible. All flights are going to remain grounded until the president decides it's safe to fly again. This morning, those people who were going to Orlando didn't know what was happening until they got off the plane at 10 this morning, almost an hour after two hijacked airliners crashed into the Twin Towers. When the passengers found out why they landed, they were just relieved to be safely on the ground. canceled. Every flight coming into or going out of Savannah, or any other airport for that matter. George Schmidt was on a plane out of New York's LaGuardia Airport bound for Orlando, Florida. The plane was forced to land in Savannah. He's not too concerned about having to spend a night in the hostess city.
Our destination is not the first thing on our mind anymore. I mean, it's obviously the safety of everybody involved.
Tom Larkin was on the same flight. He says he feels fortunate, but wishes he was at his house.
I think I'd feel luckier if I was home, but yeah, I've been in the trade centers myself a few times. Yeah, it's quite a tragedy. It's more in a numb state.
Did you hear the announcement? Some people were waiting on a plane to fly out of Savannah, like Jerry Vardzell from Hilton Head. He says he's happy he never got off the ground.
I'm glad. I think it was a great decision. I mean, everybody's busy and wants to go somewhere, but I'm glad I'm talking to you all right now down here.
This is really stressful.
Lines to rent cars to make it out of town were long at the airport. Margaret Burnell was here visiting family. Now she's going to rent a car and drive home to Seattle, a 2,400-mile trip.
We need to get home, and I don't think there's going to be any planes flying for, obviously, today, and I'd be surprised if they're even flying tomorrow, and I really don't have any desire to go fly on one.
Everybody relieved to be on the ground today. Now, we can't tell you at this time when the airport will reopen. If you're scheduled to fly, try to stay in touch with the airline. It'll obviously take them a while to sort all this out, but once they get the all clear. Also, you can expect heavy security. There will be traffic checkpoints between I-95 and the terminal. No curbside parking will be allowed, and no one except passengers will be allowed past the metal detectors.
Now, Tim, give us a feel for what the mood was like at the Savannah International Airport today.
Well, Jim, you know, when we interview people, a lot of times it's us going to them, asking them to talk to us. But today, people came up to us, willing to talk. It was almost like a catharsis for people, a way for them to share their thoughts and feelings. I'll tell you, everybody out there, no one you heard complaining about missing a connection, not getting somewhere. Everybody relieved to be on the ground, not in the air.
And not just there, it seemed everywhere we went today, people wanted to talk about this because it was their way of sharing the experience and their emotions.
Definitely a day that I think is different than any day we've lived. I mean, it's really a cathartic experience for everybody. Everybody around the newsroom, everybody here talking about what happened.
Right. Thank you, Tim.
If you go to Fort Stewart or Hunt Army Airfield, expect delays. The number 2 military police officers for both bases say they are prepared to show, you should be prepared rather, to show why you need to enter the posts.
As the security measures increase, every vehicle will be stopped. Every personnel will be asked to show a driver's license, a military ID card, or a contractor ID, and then given or state their business on the installation.
In a statement emailed to News 3, 3rd Infantry Division Commander Major General Walter Sharp says our soldiers serving in the Balkans are also increasing their efforts to protect soldiers in the field.
Now here's some proof of the delays these security measures will cause in the days to come. Around lunchtime today, traffic onto Hunter Army Airfield backed up all the way to White Bluff Road. Apparently, no one's taking any chances. In fact, one civilian contractor says he wasn't allowed on base to go to his job.
Helplessness is one of the emotional byproducts of this entire episode, but a lot of local folks are finding a way to help through the American Red Cross. The city-wide blood drive is attracting a lot of people more than willing to give.
Going on today, I just feel it's important for us to do what we can to help out, even though, you know, nothing's happened in the Savannah area, but some other people aren't so lucky.
Wednesday, the Red Cross has a mobile unit at Savannah Police Headquarters on Habersham Street at 9. The main office on the corner of Taylor and Habersham Street opens at 8. And you can go to Candler Hospital to donate starting at 10 o'clock. Blood donors with types O positive, O negative, B positive, and B negative are urged to give blood during the next few weeks. The Red Cross is also asking for volunteers. For more information on donations, you can log on to WSAV.com or call the American Red Cross at 1-800-GIVE-LIFE.
People trained in the medical profession can also volunteer their skills. The Salvation Army right now is looking for medical volunteers to help with the wounded and injured in Washington, D.C. and New York City. Call 1-800-SAL-ARMY to volunteer. Now, if you have kids at home, they're bound to be asking questions, even if they don't come out and ask themselves.
If you're wondering, psychologists tell us to make sure we talk to our children. Sometimes we're afraid children won't understand death. Psychologists say children can and will handle such situations.
It seems as if we all have to deal with it, whether we're adults or children. And here are some tips from the experts for handling a situation like this. First, tell your children as soon as possible. Explain what may happen next. Answer all questions simply and honestly as possible. Don't be afraid to express your own grief. You're bound to feel it, and your children will sense that. Continue to talk to your child in the next few days and weeks and encourage your child to talk as well. If your child shows prolonged signs of anger, denial, or depression, it's a good idea to seek counseling.
Again, for tomorrow, we have no notices of any closings. All schools and colleges will be open tomorrow. Government offices, banks, and other businesses will operate normally. There is one small exception. If you attend Savannah State University, the college will not open until noon.
Also, at this point, federal buildings here in Chatham County will be open tomorrow. With the attack on America in New York and Washington, D.C., the Juliet Gordon Low Federal Complex in downtown Savannah closed today. Meanwhile, Savannah Mayor Floyd Adams called for all city buildings to fly flags at half-staff. The mayor said if businesses shut down and commerce comes to a halt, then the terrorists have won. Now, Storm Team 3 Chief Meteorologist Tom Chisholm has the Storm Team 3 forecast.
Okay, Jim and Tina, I want to update you on a couple of weather situations going on right now. First of all, the fairly strong showers and thunderstorms are gradually coming to an end. We have, however, in the tropics a little bit of an issue this evening. We have a tropical depression, which is about 190 miles west of Key West, Florida. Now, this is not going to be a significant threat to the coastal empire and low country in the short run. Now, I think eventually later this week, with this being on the west side of the peninsula, it will indeed bring us some welcome rainfall. That would be very good news. In the meantime, a little bit cooler air is beginning to slip down from the Carolinas. We have the showers and storms right now, and the one thing I think we'll be seeing tomorrow is a bit more of an easterly wind. In the tropics, we note Erin moving away. The tropical depression is forecast over the next 72 hours to be about 100 miles offshore from Tampa and slowly strengthening, not quite to a hurricane force, but could be as it moves into the Big Bend area. And again, the main influence of that locally will be some fairly heavy rain. 25.5 north, 84.2 west. Top sustained winds now about 30 miles per hour. So again, that is a minimal tropical depression at the present time. If we can check out the 5-day forecast for you as we head through the next 5 days. We're looking for temperatures inland to be in the mid to upper 80s tomorrow and Thursday, and along the coast a little bit cooler with the wind off the water, and there'll be a few occasional showers and maybe becoming a little bit more numerous Friday into Saturday. We'll keep an eye on tropical depression number 8 of the season. In the meantime, no other significant threats coming up. Jim, Tina?
As you wake up tomorrow morning, the only newspaper you probably will see is the Savannah Morning News.
That's because the attack on America has forced the Federal Aviation Administration to close all airports. That leaves many turning to the internet for the newspaper headlines. The New York Daily News headline, Attack on America, while the New York Times reads World Trade Center toppled in attack. And on the USA Today website, waves of terror shocks a nation. Also, a number of newspapers you can pick up here locally, both the Savannah Morning News and a copy of the Atlanta Journal that Tim McGinnis picked up for us while he was at the airport. The headline here, terrorism hits home. Definitely telling the story. Hundreds feared dead as planes hit the Trade Center, and Pentagon also hit by suicide attack from the air. All airline flights nationwide are canceled.
And this is the extra edition today from the Savannah Morning News. The headline, U.S. under attack. And more information here on this headline, hijacked airliners targeting New York, Washington, D.C. Some memorable pictures in the newspaper as well, something that all of us certainly will never forget.
Same photographs captured right here from television coverage of the event throughout the day that you've been watching right here on NBC.
And now we have this information just in. The Associated Press is reporting that there are still people trapped in the Trade Center, and they're calling for help on their cell phones. In New York and Washington, it will definitely be a sleepless night for many. For the rest of us, our sleep may be restless.
It's good to hear that there are survivors, and hopefully that will bring us some good news in the morning. But before going to bed tonight, many of us will think of those who lost their lives and are trapped now, and tomorrow awaken to the day after the attack on America. NBC News and WSAV News 3 will be here with continuing coverage throughout the night and beginning tomorrow morning on News 3 Today at 5:30.